Now we are going to see some other CSS properties like margin, padding, etc. But before we go there, let's revisit the CSS box model which we already discussed. So CSS box model is a model where we can see that elements can be thought of as boxes, and different types of areas can be configured, can be seen around them. Something like content box, padding box, border, and margin. So basically what is happening is that the actual content is this thing, this inside thing which we already discussed. This thing is the content, and this box is called content box, the actual content. Now there is padding, and then border, and then margin. So if padding we also include, then that thing is called padding box. If border we also include, then that thing is called border box. Okay, and content box is the innermost. So with that we will start learning about how to use CSS properties for these things, width, height, and then this padding, margin, etc. But just remember this thing, that border and content, the middle of that thing is called padding, and outside border that thing is called margin. Okay, we'll come back to this. So margin, just now we discussed that margin will be outside the border, like whatever is the content and including padding, whatever is the final border is we are forming outside that. Between outside that means what? Let's say some other elements are there. Then if margin we are specifying for an element, it means that we are assuring that that much margin will definitely be there after that element, before any other element can be rendered in the browser, right? So it sets the margin area for all the four sides of an element. So something like this. By default margin is 0, but by default margin is 0 for elements. For browser specific, for example, let's say you see that here some margin is there, that is like browser specific for body element or something. Those things browser can still set by default, which you will have to reset if you don't want that. For example, let's set our border here to see. So border, let's say 1 pixel solid and blue. Okay, now we see that still there is some gap here, right, between the top end and left end of the browser. So that thing is basically because the body itself in the browser, the body itself does not have has some a little bit of margin padding. So let's reset that. So let's say margin is 0 and padding is 0. So if you don't know padding, that is fine, we'll come back to it, but let's reset it. So now you will see that everything is gone. Okay, now you see what do I mean by margin on all sides. Margin on all sides means that if on hello I say margin is, let's say 20 pixel, then this element will have at least a gap of 20 pixel outside it from all sides. You see this. So there's a gap of 20 pixel outside all. Now this means that whatever let's say above this there is some other hello 1, let's say, right, and below this is some other, let's say, class, this is hello 2. Okay, and let's say these hello 1 and hello 2, in order to identify that, let's say set some background color. So let's say some background color we set for hello 1 also, and let's say hello 2 also. You see that still there is gap, which means that if this margin was not there, then you see that they are all like this, like one after another, like every div is starting with a new line. Obviously this is a like block, div is a block element, right? So obviously it will do that. But you see that if I set background, if I set margin 20 pixel, which means that uh, I am assuring that any other element cannot come within 20 pixel until unless 20 pixel gap is there between this element and any other element, right? If it is like extreme, then that will be gap from the top. Otherwise, if at the top or bottom some other element is there, then that will be gap from the particular element. Okay, something like this. So you see that there will be a proper spacing of that many pixel whatever we have given padding around that, and that can be anything, like that can be 20 pixel or that can be even 5 pixel or 2 pixel, anything. Okay, but that much gap will be maintained. That thing is it. Now second thing is that, okay, again by default it is 0. We said that if we don't set anything then it was 0, right? Now apart from one values, again we can use 2 values, 3 values, 4 values. And what do these 2 values, 3 values mean? As we discussed earlier, the first value will be top margin, second one will be right margin, third one will be bottom margin, fourth one will be left margin. And in a similar sense, for 2 values and 3 values, which we already discussed, for 2 values this is top and bottom, this is right and left. For 3 values this is top, the rightmost is bottom, and the middle one is right and left. Okay, so let's try some of those. So let's say we try simple 1 2 3 4 4 values, right? Simple. So let's say my margin is 5 pixel from top, 10 pixel from right, 15 pixel from bottom, and 20 pixel from left. Simple. Now you see 5 pixel from top, 10 pixel from right, 15 pixel from bottom, and 20 pixel from left. You see? So anything you can target. Apart from that, again we could have targeted simple like this also, that everything is 5 pixel and let's say margin left is especially 20 pixel. So everything all the four are 5, and then only left is set 20, which means that other 3 are still 5. You can see other 3 are still 5, just the left margin is set as 20 pixel. And as I mentioned, these can be configured by margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. Okay, let's come back to padding. So we saw that whatever we are talking about, so for simplicity let's remove this simple one margin of 5 pixel, keep it. Okay, now we see that, okay, yeah, there is a gap between this and outside, this 5 pixel we set, right? However, there is no gap between so this gap you are seeing now, that is not a gap, that is actually part of the font only, right? So you understand, like some French characters or something will have some accent at top, right? So basically this and here below, like some like let's say G is there, you understand? So this thing is not gap, this thing is not gap. Something, if G or something is there, then that will come below, right? Something like, let's say hello world G, then you see this thing G is moving. So similarly some characters of non-English characters might have some at the top also, like accent aigu, that is called in some French or something, those things. So basically the whole thing, the whole height is font. So if you highlight the font, then whatever is selected, the whole height is font height. Simple. But if you see that there is no gap, there is no gap between the font, like whatever the text is there, which means that whatever the contents of the div is there, and the div border itself, there is no gap, right? Why? Because there is no padding. As we mentioned, padding is the gap between the contents and the border, and since there is no padding, by default it is 0, by default it is 0. We can set padding ourselves, which is padding area for all the 4 sides. So similarly, let's take simple example where we can set padding. So let's say padding, and we set 10 pixel. If we set 10 pixel, then you can see now that, yeah, this is my font, this is my text content, and then outside that, so you see there is 10 pixel gap, but that is before border, plain and simple, right? And again this can be also set as like whatever, 5 pixel, 10 pixel, again 5 pixel, something like this. So top and bottom are like or simple like this, top and bottom are 5 pixel and left and right are 10 pixel. You can see top and right are 5 pixel, left and right are 10 pixel. So the point is that, and for simplicity let's keep it only one value for now. So now we have seen that what is margin outside and what is padding. Okay. And again, as we mentioned right now, that we could target something like this, that okay, the padding, the whole padding is this thing, but specifically I can target that okay, padding left is like 20 pixel. Then everything else will be remaining same, just that padding top, bottom, right, everything is same. Just right, left part is left thing is that thing is more and or less, whatever you configured from this side. Okay, so left, right, bottom, these things can be configured. Now let's come to font size. Sets the size of the font, and this we have used many times, right? So for example, here only also we like by default it is very small. So right now, if this thing is slightly bigger visible, that is simply because of this only, that I have set it is 25. So you can see that if I comment this, then it is like slightly smaller. If I set it 25 pixel, then you can see that it is bigger. I can set it 50 pixel, then it will be more bigger. You can set it in rems also, let's say 3 rems. Okay, so you can do that also, 3 rem, 2 rem, 1 rem, whatever you can do. So the point is that any unit you can use to set the font size. Now what is this percentage? Okay, see, percentage is whatever in that context the current font size is there, just outside that element, whatever the context, in that context whatever is font size, 90% of that. Okay, let me show you an example how to see that. So let's keep it 25% pixel only, but yeah, but let's have something like this, that okay, so hello 1 is there, hello 1 is there. So for simplicity let's keep it after hello. So hello is there and hello 1 is there, right? Hello we already know that, and let's see how it is. So this thing is there, and okay, so let's remove all those things. Right now it is not needed. Let's have color also black only, simple. Okay, so hello 1. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to set two different font sizes for hello and hello 1. Okay, so for hello, let's say font size is 30 pixel, and for this thing, for hello 1, let's say the font size is or let's say this is 30 and this is 50 or 60, whatever you see. So the hello 1 will be smaller and first one hello will be bigger, right? This is fine, right? Now see, both have text classes. Okay, what if I do something like this, dot text, and its font size is, let's say 70%. See what is happening. This thing, this world will be 70% of whatever the current font size is there inside this element. What is this? Hello, 60. So this size will be 70% of 60, but this one will be 70% of the hello 1. Inside hello 1, what is there? Inside hello 1, 30 pixel is there, right? So this will be 70% of 30 pixel. So even if both are, you see something like this is like, even if both are using the same class, font size 70%. This meaning of 70% is changing in different context. You see, in fact, this 70% is bigger than the 100% of the some other one, right? And that is obviously possible, right? So now you understand what is percentage. And for simplicity, some small, medium, large, those are they are not generally used, but you can use like if you are not that much into like exact pixel how much you want, then you can use a general font size, small, medium, large. They will give something. In fact, there are other ones also like extra, double extra small, extra large, and double extra large. These things. These are absolute sizes, which if you want, you can use it. Let's come back to font family. Font family specifies a list of one or more font family names. Okay, so let's see. Let's remove everything for now. And try to see its yeah. So you see that actually there is no font family specified as of now. However, if we want, we can specify. So by default, something like this is like Times New Roman or sans serif. You can see that what is like Chrome default font. So okay, so they are using. They are saying that Helvetica. Okay, it doesn't look like that, but anyways, I think it is like something like sans. Yeah, I think it is. I don't know. I don't know what is the default font Chrome is using, but it is some version of serif. See, what is serif actually? Serif is actually. Let me show you. See, these some edges are there, right? These are like pointy things, like so. There are so you can set something like this. There is a font family CSS property, and then you can set, let's say, font family CSS property, and then you can set something like font name. Let's say Arial I want to give, right? Then you see that this thing will change. See, this is something change, right? Or uh, or you can give something like Times New Roman, right? This is case insensitive, but anyways. Okay, let me check whether for font size it is case sensitive or not. The point is that in general CSS properties are high, yeah, so it still works. So it doesn't matter even for font size names. Okay, so the point is that you see that so earlier also this something like this was there. So by default it means that something like Times New Roman or some very similar font is there by default. The point I am trying to make is that font family tells you that what is the style of the. So there are other also styles like something like I believe some cursive style will be there, right? Then it will be some italic, you can style of. So there can be hundreds of types of fonts, and what is the default font you want to use, right? uh, that is defined by font family, that for this particular element please use this font. You understand that I have set this thing for here, which means that if I want on the whole page, then I will apply this thing on the body tag, right? That is fine. But right now if I write hello world here, right, then what is going to happen? This thing is still not that cursive. This is outside that cursive thing, right? So this thing will be still the default font which was set by the browser, and I'm just targeting this to change the font family, that this font family is not the default font family of something like Times New Roman or something, but this is a different, right? And you can see now what is the difference between Times New Roman and Arial. Actually, Arial is sort of a sans serif font, which does not have these edges. You see, this pointy things is not, it is like some sort of smoothened thing, and but this thing is like pointy. Okay, anyways, uh, the next point is that you should never use a single font. Why? Because if that font is missing in your system, then that font might not be rendered properly in your browser. So there is a concept of multiple fonts to be given by priority and separated by commas, something like this. That I will give. I know that like Arial is like sans serif, like it is not pointed. That is fine, but sans serif is a generic font. Something like what is generic font? Generic fonts are those fonts which are already available in the most of the systems by default, and variations of those are some other related fonts. So Arial, Helvetica, sans serif, these are all similar. Similar, you understand, right? Similar means they are not exact, but their style is similar, which means that all these, let's say, three will have pointy things. Understand? Either you put Times New. So let's try that. So by that, let's see what is the difference. So you can have something like Times New Roman, right? 10 times in serif. Okay, okay. Now let's try that I do the same thing on, let's say, hello 2 and hello 3, right? But what I will do is that for hello 2 and hello 3, I will use, let's say, on this I will use only Times, right? And in hello 3 I will use only serif, and here I will use only Times Roman, Times New Roman, right? Let's see what is the difference, and this will be hello 3. Understand? And for the timing, let's remove these things for clarity. So you see, all these are separate fonts. The first one is Times New Roman. The second one is Times. Third one is serif. But you see that all the three are almost similar, right? In a similar manner, if you see that Arial, Helvetica and sans serif, and how do you know that what is the list you have told? So this is like a normal list of fonts which are generally available in most of the systems, and they are like commonly used in conjunction, so that either this or that one of these will be available in most of the systems, and the final one will be definitely, final one is actually called generic fonts which are available in most of the systems. If something which customized font you want to use and that is not available in your system, then actually you can define your own fonts. You can give your own font files. You can give your own font files, and then you can specify particularly that this is my font name with this particular font file. Okay. So but and how do you know what are these lists? Actually, these you don't need to remember. There are some standard conventions which generally people use, and most of the most of the text editors will have them by default. So right now also I was when typing, then you can see that it is giving me suggestion automatically. The Times New Roman and Times and serif are used in conjunction. Serif is the right one most, is the final generic font, which is like if nothing is there, then at least this thing will be definitely there. Similarly, Arial, Helvetica and these things are used in conjunction. So let's try this also. So if one place I am using only Arial, second place I am using only Helvetica, sorry, and third place, let's say I'm using only sans serif. Let's see what is the difference. You see, almost no difference. You see, so the point is that only that these are different separate fonts, but generally they are used in conjunction because almost they are similar, and this works as a fallback mechanism, that okay, if I am doing something like this, then if this thing is available, then please use this, otherwise use this, otherwise definitely this thing will be available in most of the systems. So something like that, but these fonts are slightly separate. which is not visible to naked eyes. Maybe somebody who can zoom, who can better understand the fonts, can tell the differences. Okay. Anyways, font face. Okay, this we will discuss later. What are at rules? There are some CSS selectors which start with at. Okay, at this point of time, just understand that if let's say I am creating some new font, like some Chanakya Labs font, some font is there, right? New font. Now that font I can create my own font, and then I can tell browser that, you know what, this is not a standard font, this is my special font, right? Any websites also, like some brand, let's say big companies, they will launch their website with their own custom fonts. Let's say their designers will make their own fonts, right, for their special website. So the point is that these things can be declared by using something called at font face, which we'll see later. Right now I'll just give you a simple illustration. So something like this thing is there. Let's say Google Fonts is there, right? There actually you can go and see like lots of fonts are there. Okay, so there if you select some font, let's say I select this, then yeah, then actually they will give you some links, something like this. So you see, this is like to put in browser. So basically they are saying that, okay, this is real style sheet. This we already know, right? This real style sheet means this is style sheet. This href, which means that this whole thing is a style sheet, right? And if you see this is style sheet, the contents, then you will see that it has something called at font face. Now you don't need to understand all these anything right now. Just I wanted to say that you understand that some pt serif, let's say this is not a standard font, but this font you can declare that, okay, this font I am declaring using at font face. So if your css contains this thing, and this will have the whole thing, that what is the font name, where is that font file. So actually this is saying that here is the font file wov2, and these are actually basically font files. So this is the font file which will be downloaded by your browser, and browser will say that using at font face I am declaring that this font family name is pt serif, something like that. Now once you declare something, some new font using this, right, then after that you can use here that, okay, my font family is, you know what, my font family is pt serif. You understand? This thing will not work because browser will say that what is this pt serif, I don't know. But if you declare it using something like this, then browser will know that, yeah, what is this and how to use this. So that's what I just wanted to give you a highlight, that what is this at font face. Just don't bother if you don't understand it right now, but this is used to say to the browser that, like, okay, I have new font faces, can you include this, and I will use this in the font family. Okay. As I mentioned, never use just one font family. Just try to have some generic. Like here also, what I was trying to do, this should be wrong, because anyways there might be some issue in downloading these or something. Internet connectivity can go. So definitely you should have some fallback. So see that what type of font it is, and whatever is the generic font related to this. Just so let's say serif is related to this, then add serif separated by comma, so that if this thing is somehow we are unable to access this, then by default this thing will be visible, rather than just that text is invisible or not visible, something like that. Okay, so it's better to do that. Anyways anyways this is what I was saying about generic font family. These like five are most common generic font family which will be available in most of the systems. And this I was saying that, okay, serif is mostly this pointed corners at different places. This will be like not pointed. This is basically monospace, which means that it is like sort of like we also write na, in our editor. Then these are also like anything which is code related, they are generally taken as monospaced. So all these things are, you can see that these are these are same width, all the characters are same width. So if all the characters have the same width, then it is called monospace. So for example, here font family, it is written, it is actually also sort of monospace. Actually it is a different font, but it is really somewhat like monospace. But if you see serif or sans serif, there I will be very, thin, W will be very wide. That is not the case here. You see here, whether it is I or W, all are taking same width. You understand? So you see, yeah. So they will have, so this width, this width, this width, right? Mostly they will have the same width. Actually, see, this is VS Code also might have somewhat specialized fonts for themselves, right? But in general, I'm saying, in general, monospaced fonts are those type of fonts which are same width for all the characters. Okay, now cursive is something different, and fantasy is something different. Yeah, so these are like most generic fonts which are available. Anyways, uh, let's come back to font weight. Okay, so font weight is as we mentioned that, see, we earlier saw in the earlier CSS sessions that we can use something like strong to make something bold. But this is another way to make something bold. That if I have this thing, then obviously I can, instead of span, if I put strong, then it will be bold, right? But another way of doing is that I use something like font weight bold, and if I refresh that, then you see this has become bold. So this is a CSS way of making something bold, right? In fact, bold is like one of the shades which is available, one of the shades in the spectrum of font size which is available. In fact, your whatever so sorry, I should not use this. This should be, yeah. So you can see that the bold is one of the font sizes. Actually, you can have a font family, like say an inbuilt file with some font, where it has a range of, let's say, 200, 400, 700, 800, 900. Let's say five range. So from 100 to 900, these are actually the ranges of various font weights. And in general, like 400 is like normal, which normal means by default. By default, whatever font will come, that will be around 400. And then 600, 700, 500, all those things can be there. And the general bold behavior is it will pick the 700 something. And it can be more than bold also, like it can be 800, 900, like more bold than more bolder than bold itself. So you can understand that different shades of that boldness can be given in the font declaration itself. And if you have those types of font files and it supports such ranges, then you can target it uh, more accurately. Let's say, what if I say that no, this is bold, but this is slightly more bold. I want bold than this, I want more bold than this, but still I want less bold than this. What to do? Here we cannot do anything if we simply use a strong tag or something, right? But if we have support for something like that, let's say font, I know that bold will be 700. So if I put simply 700, right, then it will be obviously same, because 700. But if I put, let's say I put 600, I don't know whether this font supports or not, but let's say I put 600, then actually all fonts don't support all the ranges, but if your font supports, then you can put 400, 500, something, and it might be now you can see that, see, 400 and 500 are like, even if you put 500, it takes simply 400, right? but yeah, 400 and 500 it tries. So basically in browsers what happens that sometimes it tries to scale itself, and that was the next point, that if a font family does not have appropriate weights, sometimes the browsers will try to scale it appropriately, so that that effect is given. But apart from that, if the font files themselves support these natively, then they will be directly picking from there only. Now there is something called font variant, and it has a couple of more values also. But the most important use case of font variant is something called small caps. Okay, so let's say I want to use this thing only, but this world, hello is fine, but this world should be something like this. Let's say font variant, font variant small caps. Then you see this type of font you might have seen at many places, right? So it is like all caps, but smaller letters are like slightly smaller, but they are still caps. Okay, so these are small caps. If you want, then you can use font variant something like this, and then you can achieve that. Simply font style. Again, what font weight did for bold or strong, similarly if using font style we can achieve the similar behavior for italics. So for italics you can obviously use em tag or I tag, right? But what if I want to make italic through this thing CSS? So I can make font style italic. You see, if you do something like this, then font style italic, then you see this world will become italic. Okay, so the point is that you can do these things from CSS also. And there is something called oblique. I will not go in detail, but mostly this is again used just for italic. But oblique is also, and in fact oblique fonts are not available always, and in fact browsers interchange themselves. So if italic is available and oblique is not available, then it will use simply italic. It is other way around also. If it is italic is available, oblique is available and italic is not available, then it will use oblique, which is not the case generally. Most of the fonts will provide normal and italic. On top of that, they might provide oblique, right? But generally obliques are how the browsers are handling that. I'm not aware of that, but the main point is that you can understand that italics are a specialized version of fonts which are specifically provided by the font designers. But oblique is like simply normal fonts, but they are like maybe that font supports some degree of some tiltness, you understand. So basically let's say they are just regular font versions, but inclined, some inclination is there, and you can specify that inclination also. But again, this thing is like rarely used. Just focus that if using CSS, if you want to create italicized text, which means that something like italics, then you can use font style italic. That's it, and that will be sufficient here. Line height, yeah, this would be almost the last thing from this side of the video. And this thing is important. Line height basically sets the height of the line box of particular text. So for example, let's say I have two rows here. Okay, something like this. Now uh, now you see that, okay, there is some gap in between. You understand? What if I want to increase or decrease that gap? Can that be done? Okay, so you see here line height comes into picture, right? Line height, if I say 100%, see what will happen. This thing is slightly decreased. If I say, let's say 50%, then you see it is like overlapping. Actually you can control it completely. So 50%, you say 70%, let's say, then this is like this much gap is there. And you can control it, that like no, I want like 180%, 180%, then the gap will be like more. So if you are writing a paragraph, let's say you are writing a paragraph, right, and some few words are there, and you want to say that let's say some class name is there, and let's say my para is there. Then in this my para class, I want to have line height of my choice. So I will firstly show you the normal behavior, something like this. Okay, so a paragraph is there, but this let's say here I don't want to change, but just here I want to change this paragraph. I want like more spacious. Then I can put it here that, yeah, okay, so if I keep it 150%, then I will get slightly more space. You see, I will get slightly more space. So that height, the gap between the lines, that is going to be controlled by this thing. By default, it is not 100%. By default, it is actually around 110 or 120% for the most browsers. So that somewhat gap should be there, so that it is legible to read. Apart from that, you can use various other units also. So for example, I can use rem, I can use percentages also, which will be like percentage of the current font size. In fact, the number, only number, unit less number, that means in a similar manner that, for example, here it is 2.5. 2.5 means that whatever is the current font size, 2.5 times of that. Okay, the default font size, as I mentioned, in the most browsers it will be around 110 to 120% of the elements font family. Okay, so okay, so they are saying that in that element, whatever is the default font size, whatever is the font size currently in that element, that element's font size into 1.1, like 110% or 120% of that. Okay, now come back to font. Like background or border, again font is a shorthand property used to set these various things. So these all various things which we just now saw. Okay, this font style, font variant, font weight, all those things we can set directly from one place. The simple thing is that font family should be the last one. That is the only criteria. Once font family is the last one, before that you can keep many other things, like for example, font weight, font style, font variant, all these things you can put. However, if you are using line height in this font declaration, then that should come after font size, followed by a slash. So have a font size, then a slash, and then line height if you want. That is the syntax. The minimal behavior is that you can have a font family, and then you can have a some font size, right? And then before that you can have other things like bold, italic, whatever. It will automatically take care of all those things, that you know what, you are writing bold, which means that you are trying to say that the font weight is bold and font style is italic. So in that sense it will automatically figure it out what you are trying to do. Just minor restrictions are there, like for example here I said that line height has to be after slash. Apart from that, just have font family at the end, and rest it will figure it out. So it will be simple. Okay, so one more point. Actually, this point I have already mentioned at other places, but let me reiterate it. The value which you don't set in a particular shortcut property is still set with the default value. Let me again, let me say that again. So if I say that my font weight is, let's say, bold, you see, right, what will happen? This has become bold, that is fine. However, after that, if I say that, you know what, my font, let's say it is 25 pixel is the font size, let's say, and my let's say Times New Roman is the font, so it's not coming. So let me try by font family, Times New Roman, and then I will just copy this. here. You understand? So I'm saying that something like this. Now you see that it is now not bold. If I would have written something like bold here, then this is working fine, right? You understand? I have set font weight bold. Here I did not set font weight bold, but still font weight bold is gone. So when you use a shortcut property, even if the properties which you are not setting, they are also getting set with the default values. That is, I mentioned in earlier also, like in border also, or somewhere background also somewhere I mentioned, but the same thing which I am trying to say. So if you really want to use those, use that after shortcut property. So use shortcut property, and then after that you set particularly whatever what you want, and then it will work fine. Okay, so this is just the point to remember. Apart from that, just now I said that, yeah, anything else you want to set, then use that after the shortcut property. Yeah. So this will be almost done for here. We'll be discussing a few more CSS properties, but that will be after some time. The point is that again there are lots of properties, so you can simply Google CSS properties list or properties reference, and then you can get this list, which this link CSS/reference in and Mozilla site, and here you will have a lot of properties. See, the thing is that not all of the properties generally people use, but whatever is like most commonly used, I will be anyways covering. I'll be anyways covering, and if you see anything else which is like alien to you, then you can come here and go to any particular function. Here everything is there, like function, property, all things are there, so you can simply go there and you can understand that what they are trying to say, and in that case you can get a better understanding of those things. So okay, that will be all for now. See you in the later video.